Anyway, strikers then, Martin. So, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, 3-year contract just signed. Lucas Mecha, 2-year contract just signed. Joel Perreault has 2 years left on his contract. And then we might see some pity minutes for Harry Gray here and there, so we've included him on it. And obviously, a lot of the older Leeds heads listening to this podcast might appreciate a Gray shout out. So hopefully Harry Gray has a season where he kicks on a bit. He's been unbelievable to start the season for the under-21s, to be fair to him. He's been really, really good. Shit hot, they might say. So yeah, how are you feeling about the striker situation? Didn't get Rodrigo Muniz, but we did get Calvert-Lewin.
No, and I'm actually very happy with the signing of Calvert-Lewin. I think I've got a soft spot for strikers who aren't clinical. I don't know why.
Is it also because he's occasionally worn a skirt?
That also is a selling point for me, to be honest. He's a handsome guy as well. So handsome guy who's not very clinical but works really hard. Who does that remind you of? There's so many parallels between Calvert-Lewin and Bamford. I do think that he's going to bring more things to what Bamford doesn't bring, though. For one, he's stronger, he's taller, he's got more general aerial ability. Although Bamford had his time where he was an aggressive bugger at times, I think DCL is one ups that, and he can be a really real big bully in those sort of areas. So although he won't be bringing us 15-20 goals this season, what he will be doing is making the attack work, and that's what Patrick Bamford did at his best whenever he played on the pitch. He made our attack work, he made our out-of-possession approach work because of how relentless he was in his pressing. DCL brings pace, he brings strength, and he brings good hold-up play and linking up well with the wide players, making space for wingers to attack. I think him and Okafor could work really well together in that sort of respect. Him sort of attracting centre-backs to him and Okafor running into the spaces behind those, getting balls to him that way. I do think that this is a pretty strong area to pitch for us. Then we've also got Lucas Mecha, who is also brings a lot of the same sort of things what Calvert-Lewin does. They're pretty much identical in their profiles, totally honestly. Maybe Calvert-Lewin is a bit more aggressive in getting to the spots where he can score from, and he's a little bit quicker to get there as well. He's just got a lot of drive to get into those positions to try to score. The area around the penalty spot, that's his ideal location to get to, sometimes near post, sometimes far post, but that sort of area is where he's always looking to do his damage from. And I think if we do give him service, he will score a decent amount. But again, that's one of the issues, is the creativity. We've got players who can get crosses into him, I think into Harrison off the left, when he does play on the left, he can put in a decent ball for him. James can be decent in that respect as well. Nonto will be good to get him balls to his feet. I don't think Nonto is the best crosser, totally honestly, but he is very good with passing into the box, so he'll be able to get deliveries that way as well. So I do think there's a lot of talent in this. Maybe just not the most clinicality in across the probably two are going to be starting the most. But if you want clinicality, play Joel Perreault every game. Gone. Yeah, Joel Perreault wins.
Just on. Sorry, just on one thing you said there. You talked about crossing and Nonto not being the best high crosser of the ball, and on Perreault, I think Nonto's two of his best assists for Leeds were the one against Norwich in the semi-final for the playoffs for Perreault, and then the one against Sunderland. The header for that. I think that might be Perreault's like two of his only 3 or 4 headers for Leeds, but they're both from Nonto. Yeah. So just wanted to put that out there. He's a good crosser of the ball.
No, I'm not saying he's a bad crosser of the ball. I just think that Harrison and
you don't think of it with him as much.
Yeah. I think Harrison and James, that's what I associate more with him when it comes to creativity. Whereas with Nonto, I more associate him being a better passer than a crosser. That's all it was. But yeah, where was I? Perreault, yeah. Perreault will be useful off the bench here and there. I think he will score the odd goal. I don't think he'll go the whole season without scoring. I don't want him starting too many games, I'm totally honest, especially not against sides who are going to be ball dominant against us, because it's not going to give us an outlet. Against the teams where we feel that we can be ball dominant, there are some teams in this league who will let us have the ball. Burnley, for one. I honestly wouldn't mind seeing Perreault against Burnley. I'm not sure what other teams I could think of off the top of my head, but I wouldn't mind him in those games, but for the vast majority of games, I would prefer either Calvert-Lewin or Maitre to start off, and then he can come off the bench, maybe in a 10 role or as a striker, depending on who else is available. Because ideally, I would like to replace Calvert-Lewin with Maitre off the bench and put Perot behind when we're chasing the game. That'd be the sort of thing I'd be wanting to do, just to get some clinicality in with the aggression which the other two offer. But overall, I'm quite happy with the where we've ended up in this position. I know some people are saying, why did we sign Calvert-Lewin when we could have just used Bamford? I'm one of the biggest Bamford fans you can think of. We all are on this pod. We all love Paddy, but he's not the player he was when we was last in the Premier League by a long shot. He's not as quick as he was. He's not as strong as he was. He's going to be injured a lot of the time, and I just don't feel like he would have it in him to have a season as good as what he did last time. And even though he had that confidence and belief that he could, I couldn't have backed him for it, and I would have wanted someone that bit younger and not as old as Bamford is, just to keep the bit going with which Hosty's had a go at me for. But yeah,
it's his birthday. As we record, it's his birthday tomorrow, and I know that because it's my mate's birthday and they have the same birthday. So he's 32 tomorrow. Happy birthday, Paddy, if you are. Yeah,
I love you if you are listening. He's definitely not listening, but yeah, I love him.
Hosty, strikers then, because for years Leeds have had now a long time. I'll cast your mind back for a few years here, and Jacob tweeted about this as well. Leeds have had second strikers playing as nines, and we've had Joel Pirot, we had Rodrigo, and I would even say that Kemal Roof's probably a striker that suits being in a front two more than he is as a single striker. Yeah. I know he was good for us for Bielsa, he was, but all three of those players, second strikers more than they are number nines. And now, this summer...
Roof was a winger, right?
He's a winger. He was a winger, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
McCormack too, he could play in the wings. McCormack as well.
Exactly. If you want, just not had many nines. So many. And yet, this summer, we signed two of them. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, really good. I was just thinking then, the fact that we signed two forwards who are more out-and-out nines, and Martin, you've spoken about being clinical, and I think Metch is a little bit more clinical than Calvert-Lewin. His ratio, Wolfsburg at least, was 1 in just about every 2 games, which is really good numbers. And part of me thinks, again, will Farker do it? Probably not. But if we're in a bit more of a dominant game, then maybe you go 4-2-3-1 and you start with Metch and Perot. And, when we're in a non-dominant game, then you have Calvert-Lewin, who's going to do a bit more of the stretching, be a bit more aggressive, be a bit more quicker that way. And that's maybe how we then manage their fitness. That's how we get the best out of both of them. And it's good and I think that means that we're in a good position in that sense, that we've got options, we've got depth for the same profile as well. They all offer a little bit different something. Do I think that we could have gone into this season without Joel Perot and these signings? Yes. Do I think that means that maybe this kind of looks a bit bloated in the strikers and we could have sold Perot potentially and had a bit more money to invest in a 10 right winger? Yes, I do.
It depends then, just to interject really quickly, it depends how you see Okafor in terms of how much you would trust him as he'd be then the third choice 9 in that instance. How much would you have trusted
Harold Gray's
him?
my third. Harold Gray's my third choice.
I'll shut up. Yeah, sorry, you're pandering to an older generation here.
No, I guess but again, you could then probably have brought in a third profile, right, that could have been that out-and-out third option who maybe a little bit younger, promising striker coming through, not quite how Harry Gray, because he's only 16 or 17 now, is he? I'm not entirely sure.
There's a young lad at Mallorca who I think could fit that.
Well, yeah, right, yeah. But but I'm talking like maybe there's an 18, 19-year-old in League One or something. I don't know. I'm literally making up a profile off the top of my head. But someone like that who could come in, be happy to be third choice if those two got injured, and we know that it's the exact same profile. Maybe the sort of player that Lukaku was at 18, right? Where he's still this big bastard, basically, at 18, but isn't expected to start every week. So I think that there was maybe a bit room to unbloat this with because I think like we the issue here is that we've got three players that are essentially vying for one, and they're all of 25, 28, in between that age range, within that peak age range of where you want players to be playing. So that's where I'm thinking it may be a little bit bloated.
Yeah,
I've got a wild card shout here. A totally wild card shout, which is just utter nonsense. But I love it as it's just come up in my head. Joel Perreault as a right winger.
I was considering this when we were discussing it because I'm absolutely certain it has been brought up on Twitter before, and we all just laughed. We all just laughed because we know that's not going to work.
It's a total wild. It's the sort of thing I'd do on Football Manager when I couldn't quite fit a player into a squad. It's ridiculous.
I'm pretty confident in saying that at PSV, I went really wanky football tactic.
That wasn't even German. Like, I'm not even sure that's Dutch. I'm not even sure that's Dutch.
Something like that. PSV Eindhoven, something like that. Anyway, I'm pretty sure he did play a little bit as a right winger and a number 10 there. I'm pretty confident he did. He did in his career before he went to Swansea. Well, I'm going to say, please don't do that, Daniel, if you're listening.
Sorry to interrupt. Just a quick one. If you're enjoying the video, be sure to like and subscribe to help us keep the content coming. And if you want even more, you can support us over on patreon.com/ASAW Patreon. You'll get bonus podcasts, exclusive articles, and access to our Discord community, all while helping us make more of the content you love. Thanks. Now let's get back to it. His physical output.
Shut up. I will defend Joel Perreault for a second here, if that's okay. I like that we have him as an option because he's the best finisher in the squad. And I like that he can play as a number 9 or a number 10. Okay, you can argue as to how well in those roles, but he can do it, and it gives us something different. And so I think you need a bench of profiles of things that are different, and he is different. So I'm up for him being in the squad. I agree with Martin, though. He shouldn't be starting as a number 9 this season in the Premier League unless we have a massive crisis. I actually think, some people listening are going to hate me saying this, but I think he should be the 4th choice number 9. I think we should probably play Okafor there. In some games, it might make more sense to, and just let him just run it. At least he's going to charge at people and charge into channels. It might not look the prettiest. He might not be the best at holding the ball up as Calvert-Lewin and Metcher, but he's going to at least be a bit more of a kind of a problem for centre-backs to think about in terms of what he's doing in behind. Perreault, when the ball is played into him, he's not going to run in behind because he's not got the speed, and when it's played into him, he doesn't have the strength. At least with Okafor, you've got one of those things. So I just think that might make more sense to me. Anyway, I know people listening won't agree with that. Some people anyway. But yeah, that's where I stand. I think this situation's decent. I think we could have moved the needle a little bit more, but it's good. It's improved quite a lot. Certainly just for having 2 number 9s, and that is the main thing for me. The club have brought 2 in. They've realised we can't just get 1, Metcher or Calvert-Lewin. We need to get 2, or Rodrigo Muniz, and just stick with him because he's not played all that much, whatever it might have been. I'm glad that we went for 2 in the end. So this position's become quite a lot stronger. That means overall, just as some closing thoughts here, we'll probably do a little bit of talk here about a few different things. But I just feel like, in goal we're a little bit better. At fullback we're pretty significantly better. At centre-back we're significantly better. In midfield we're significantly better. At wide we're a little better. And at striker we're a decent amount better. So the squad is better. No matter what people want to say on Twitter, and no matter what people will tell you about us, they'll call the 49ers chances, they'll call Underwood and Evans and others any name under the sun, and call for their heads and call for them to be sacked and all the rest of it. This squad is definitively a much, much better team. And while I'm talking now, guys, I want you both just really quickly, just a very quick activity, just scroll through the running order and look at the players and count which ones, and be harsh, which players in your head, you might have already done this because I put this in our group chat a few weeks ago, count in your head which ones you actually think, yeah, you're Premier League level. And I don't mean like, oh gosh, you need to be a player that can play for a team fighting for the top half. I mean, just like, you're good enough to play Premier League minutes in the Premier League.
It's easier for me to count the ones that aren't.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
That's
my point.
Yeah.
But yeah, just quickly do it while I finish my point. I got to, being harsh total, I got to 16. And then I did a more generous total, and I got to 19. I won't say the 3 players that I'm borderline on because I don't want to upset anyone, so I'm not going to do that. But yeah, I got to 16 that I think, yep, you're definitely good enough, 100%. I could see you playing a decent amount of minutes this season and being okay at bare minimum. And in some cases, a little bit more than that, quite a lot more than that, to be fair. And there's the case of like Stach and Biol, who we think have really raised the ceiling of the squad. So yeah, undoubtedly, overall, the squad is better. It's just the fact that I think I wanted 2 more players. We've already outlined them. I wanted another midfielder who could be a bit more of a number 8/number 10, who could be a bit more creative, something of a wild card, I would say, I would call it. And then a winger who could also be creative. Basically 2 creative players, but in 2 different positions. So we had at least options for the bench or as a starter. And, they didn't both have to be starting level quality, but at least just the option to have them both. We didn't get them. And also within that, I would have liked one of them to have been a set piece taker at least, if not both. So that's where I stand. I think that's left us a bit short. But if we're going to do overall scores, which I'm going to ask you both for as well, of how to rate the window, my closing thoughts are, I would have given us on Monday when we were all a little bit like, no, we've.
No, you were.
Well, I mean, most of the fan base was. Let's be honest. I think I'd have given it like a 4 or 5, and then I think the next day I was kind of like at maybe a 5, 5.5 sort of rating. I think now I'm at about a 6. I think this squad, the window as a whole, has gone as a 6 out of 10. I think if we'd got that one Harry Wilson Buonanotte profile, that would have made it more of an 8. And if we'd got another sort of creative 8/10 profile, like I don't know who that would be, but just something like that, I would have maybe gone really, really quite high, and we would have had one of the strongest windows in the league. But yeah, to miss the 2 things that we didn't get is a frustration. But I still think I stand by a 6 out of 10. That's where I'm at. I think you're both a bit more positive. Hosty, first of all, did you do the game that I just asked you to play?
Yeah.
And what number did you get to?
17.
So we're very similar ballpark. And Martin, what did you do in terms of your number?
16 being harsh, 18 being less harsh.
So we're all in a similar, but
I was basically 16, and probably 17 was me not being as harsh as I could have been. Yeah.
Okay, nice. So yeah, I think we're all in a similar ballpark, which is really nice to hear, to be fair. And it just shows like people listening down on the squad. I don't think it's great. I think that's pretty good going for a team in their first season in the Premier League. So yeah. Anyway, Hosty, closing thoughts then, and like how would you rate the window out of 10?
I rate it more of a 7 to 7.5, and I think now's probably a good time for me to bring up kind of something that I discussed just before we started recording.
Yep.
There's been a lot of talk of obviously the Burnley have spent more, Sunderland have brought in so much, and spent really well. You've probably all heard like Sunderland sold Tommy Watson, sold Joe Bellingham. That gave them a bit of headroom. They didn't have any operating losses from Premier League years previously. It's meant that they've been able to. I think Robbie Evans said kind of like they're the perfect storm for getting promoted of what they had, because they had these young sellable assets who the teams have bought for potential. But if we go like our transfer, I think what we've got from what we had anyway, and what we've added is we've got a lot more Premier League experience within the squad, and that's been quite an obvious kind of buying point for everything. So Sunderland have only really signed a Premier League experience Arthur Masuaku, Xhaka, and Bertrand Traore. Right? Altogether, from all their Premier League players in their squad, of which there are 6 who have played in the Premier League, they've got 477 appearances, 33,000 minutes, roughly, a little bit over, and have completed 370 90s. Granit Xhaka counts for 228 of those appearances, 18,900 of the minutes, and 210 of the 90s of 370. So that one player is basically their experience. The next nearest to them is Arthur Masuaku, who's got 79, and then after that it's Adingra and Traore. Adingra is kind of the player who also they signed, obviously. Go to Burnley. Burnley have quite a lot of players who have played in the Premier League recently. So they've got 15 players in their squad. But again, hang on, I've accidentally held it in there for when I've copy and pasted this with Burnley. So their numbers are slightly wrong. Let me just delete that one. But they've essentially got 786 90s, 70,000 minutes, 967 total matches. Again, 413 of those matches are Kyle Walker.
Okay.
Do you want to guess how many minutes of the 70,822 do you think Kyle Walker is?
I can't do that maths that quickly. 30,000.
34, so literally half. 34,700, so basically half. And again, 386 90s from him. The next one after that is Dubravka on 165 matches. And the nearest after that is Armando Broja, who has only completed 34 90s of the 76 matches that he's played. And then you're talking Axel Tuanzebe and Joe Worrell as the next players who have had the most amount of minutes. And so you can kind of see where I'm going. That level of player isn't quite there for what Burnley have with regarding to their experience. Brun Larsen played in the relegation season. Again, only completed 15 90s but 35 matches. Jadon Anthony, we know that his level isn't quite Premier League. 36 matches. Josh Cullen, probably not good enough for the Premier League as well, in my opinion, albeit a good player. Leeds United have signed Longstaff, Dominic Calvert-Lewin and James Justin at least. Well, in fact, they are the 3 Premier League signings, and we have the return of Jack Harrison.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Right? Yeah.
Like a new signing.
All 3 of them have over 100 appearances now, 100 or more appearances in the Premier League. In total, we've got the most by far. We've got 850 90s, 76,500 minutes, 1,100 matches from 12 players, I think, 11, 12 players. And then all the other players, apart from Rodon and Byram has kind of, have at least also been in a relegation battle, so they're experienced within that. I understand that a lot of the Burnley players will have as well, to be fair, but I think we saw last year they were saved a lot by Trafford for coming up. So whether their ability is actually there is to be seen, in my opinion. And we speak about when a team fails at promotion, they kind of go the next season, well, they've got the experience now to make it happen and do it. Why do we never consider that with relegation? We've got these players now who have, Calvert-Lewin, for example, he survived relegation 3 or 4 times. Longstaff has definitely probably had 1 season with Newcastle where he's at least survived relegation. Dan James has had it. Jack Harrison's had it. Nonto's had it. They've all survived it and been relegated, right? But yeah, I think that we're in a really good position of that Premier League experience as well as the other stuff that we've discussed with the transfer window. And I think you've mentioned it before, Adam, and it's something that I keep repeating, is that there was a bit of research that you found where it said having an above average defence and a below average attack is more beneficial to staying up than having an above average attack and a below average defence. And I know that I've definitely heard elsewhere that kind of, how do you stay up? You spend money on your attackers. Well, no, the research says that you don't do that. You spend it on your defenders.
It was Alex Barker speaking to John McKenzie on The Athletic. It was just before the season started, and he said that was the big thing. And funnily enough, he put us to get relegated. So he didn't even go with his own assessments in the end, but it's fine. Carry on.
But yeah, so for that reason is why I'm also a bit more upbeat about the transfer window, because I'm looking at what we've done from an experience point of view, the age of players point of view. Like I said, the players that Sunderland and Burnley have that have their most experience are over 31, 32, the youngest being Xhaka. Whereas all our players, we've just said the oldest player is Sam Byram, who's 31, and he's got 60 matches in the Premier League, and that's it. Compared to the others, where Dan James 109, Bogle's got 53. Like, that shocked me. Strauch's got 88. Like, we've got a lot of experience in the Premier League of players who we know can handle themselves. In that point, they're probably they were probably the standout players, apart from maybe Strauch in that relegation season. But we know why he wasn't, because it was under Jesse Marsh. But the players that came out with a little bit of something to them still, with a little bit of shine maybe in that relegation season, if they didn't muddy it with leaving, you'd probably said, yeah, it's okay for them to stay because they were all right last season. So yeah, I think we're in a really good position.
Yeah. Just one more point on that as well. You mentioned Ampadu off air before we started recording. He's had 3 relegations. You've also got players like Biol, who might not have played in the Premier League before, but every season with Udinese, they were between 10th and 15th. So they were at least at part of the season fighting relegation, or at least weren't a team that were dominant at all. They must have had a small budget, Udinese in Serie A. So yeah, even those examples are players that have done it at that kind of level of leagues they've been in. So that's good. I mean, Ampadu's been relegated from Premier League with Sheffield United and then 2 times in Serie A. It's not a great omen when he plays in the top flight, but I think he's a much better player than that since as well. And like we said earlier, just one last point before I hand over to Martin, is intangibles. A lot of leaders brought in, a lot of players. It's not just experience, it's a lot of characters that have, used to Stacks battled relegation with Hoffenheim last season. They finished 15th. Like this is quite a big point. I think the club will focus on as well. So for sure, Martin, we talked a lot there, but what's your actual rating for the window? And then you can add to whatever we said.
So yeah, my rating for the window is similar to Hosty. I'm going at 7.5. I'm very happy overall with the squad that we've ended up with. We've got a very solid defence. We've got a very solid midfield. Our fullbacks are really good, and our wingers and attackers, strikers, are decent. They're not the best in the league. They're not maybe approaching mid-table, but they're definitely of a level which I think can keep you in this league. Just one other thing that I wanted to add on to what Hosty was saying about experience in sort of relegation battles. This is a little bit of a different aspect. Lucas Perry, although he hasn't really been in too many relegation battles, he has faced a lot of shots in the seasons that he has played. I'm just looking over his stats from when he was at Lyon, and last season he faced, where has it gone to? 160 shots for Lyon. And in the season before that at Botafogo, he faced 166. And just to put that in perspective as to the amount of saves Meslier was having to make in the Premier League, he faced 158. Oh wait, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong stat there. He faced 220 in the second season, 188 in the first season, and 158 in the third season. So, yes, yeah. So he dropped in that third season, so he didn't play quite as many minutes in that one. So he's faced a similar-ish level of shots to what Meslier has. What, about 20, 30 less than what Meslier has across the course of the season? Isn't a massive difference. And for a team who finished, for Lyon, they finished in 12th, so pretty much mid-table in France. He faced quite a lot of shots, so he's used to facing a lot of shots, and that's what we're going to face in a lot of games. Hopefully our defence and midfield will do their best to limit that, but there will be games where we do concede a lot of shots and a lot of goals. We've already experienced it once, so having a goalkeeper who has that experience, I think, is invaluable at the back. So I'm hoping that should bode well for Perry's chances and being able to recover after a bad game, because we've followed up a 5-0 thrashing with a clean sheet. So that already bodes well as well. So I'm definitely not as negative as a lot of Leeds fans, but I think that's generally my nature anyway, so not many listeners will be surprised by my rating there, to be totally honest. Yes, I'm a happy clapper.
Yeah, I think there'll be people listening calling us that. I think there'll be people that have given out 2s, 3s, 4s for the window, but I'm glad we're all a bit higher. I'm not quite as high as you both, but I'm still pretty decent on what it is. Also, there is January, and I know Robbie Evans has played down, having to do lots in that window, but I wouldn't put it past us to do at least one piece of business. So if we can keep ourselves in contention, it's fine if we can then add that creative spark. I just wanted to ask one more question to you both before we finish, really, which is that Jamie on the last pod, Martin, he'd mentioned this. He wanted us to talk about chance creation. And obviously we know we don't need to talk about set pieces. That's going to be one way. And we don't need to talk about transitions because we know that's going to be another way, because this Leeds team is set up for those two aspects, I think, this season. They're going to have to be. But do we genuinely have some concerns? And that's why I've gone for 6, by the way. This is the main reason. Like, some concerns. we go behind in a game, and it might not even be to a Man United, Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool. I don't know why I put Man United in this category, but like the top end of the table, it might not be to one of them. It might be to a Brighton or a Bournemouth, or it might be lower than that. It might be West Ham, Brentford. Do you actually think that we will have enough in us to generate stuff? And Martin, which are the players that you're most confident can fill that gap at least until January in terms of what we might be able to do in open play?
First of all, on the players who I think I'm most capable of digging us out of those spots, Gnonto and Okafor are probably my two biggest difference makers who are capable of individual moments. They're both capable of scoring from inside the box and from outside. They both also have Gnonto's probably more creative than Okafor is, but Gnonto definitely has that ability in him to get past a man and lay on a good chance for teammates, or combined well and then do a good pass afterwards. I think those two are probably the two I would look at who are the difference makers. And probably Anton Stack is going to create a fair amount of stuff as well, but because of just how busy he is around those areas. I wouldn't say he's necessarily a really creative player as such, but because of the way he moves into the final third and attacks that space, either with or without the ball, that he will be involved in a lot of that sort of stuff. He's a big guy as well, so if he's attacking the box at the same time when we're getting balls in, he could get headers off that way as well. So he's another one who I think could be a good part of how we look to create and also attack in general. So those are probably the ones for me. I'm not sure if you guys have anything different to add.
I will just add one thing, which is the fullbacks. And I don't necessarily think they're like super, super creative, but just in terms of what they're going to do in terms of drag the ball up the pitch, they're both good ball carriers, get us into good areas. It might be either themselves or it might be them combining with a few other wide players that can also generate some moments. We saw a nice triangle in pre-season of Gnonto, Tanaka and Bogle. We also quite liked the first game of the season when it was Gnonto on the left, and we had Goodmanson and Stack, so I don't see any reasons why Okafor couldn't be pretty bright down that side. And I think if he plays that, I think that's our best team with all those 6 players I've just named. Then we might be all right in a lot of games. Hosty?
I've nothing to add on that. I think that the main thing will be to do our best to like not go 1-0 down in those though as well. I know that that's like really basic to say, but you know, last season that didn't happen. We didn't. If we went 1-0 down, we believed in what we had anyway. Like we were never worried about it. I don't think that's something that we can do this year. So yeah, that's kind of where my head's at with that.
That is a bit of a concern, I guess, because we are going to go 1-0 down. It's going to happen.
Oh yeah, we are. We are. Okay. Well, no, more what I more meant was when we go 1-0 down. If we go 1-0 down against those sort of teams, don't let it become 5-0. That's kind of like where I think I more stand with it. If we're not going to have that opportunity to create until January, then let's just make sure that we keep that goal difference low. Don't demoralise ourselves. Make sure we put in a good performance and stuff like that, and we tick it off and just go, right, next job, next game, let's go.
Yeah, and you still tried to like, maybe get a set piece, and that's probably
100%.
It's not going to be an open play chance, maybe, but something like that. Yeah, I totally agree, guys. We've talked a lot here. It's been really, really good. Really enjoyed it. I have one last point to make, which is that I said in the last pod that us 3 did of this type, I was wondering where Leeds would end up in terms of the transfer marks, table overall, in terms of the squad value. We ended up Burnley bottom, quite a way behind us. Sunderland second bottom, slightly behind us, and then we're third bottom, which is okay. But yes, people talking about Sunderland's squad and how good it's become. Well, they've got a squad I've got here is 37 players worth 290 million euros, and ours is 26 players worth 296 million euros. So that's considerably more. And I know Transfermarkt isn't the best judge of this, but it's something. And we're not too far behind Wolves and Fulham. So
at least not far behind Wolves on the average price of average value per player, right? 11.4 for us and 11.85 for them. Whereas Sunderland's is 7.86 per player. And I think that's actually more of the indicative of the quality of the squad.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Price, because you can just fill up your players with £4 million players, but have 100 players and be like, I'm worth 400 million.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and that will change as the season goes on because it usually inflates Premier League teams quite considerably. And when you've been a Premier League player for a while, it can really bump up your value. Melier had a huge value when we got relegated. It was ridiculous. It's probably quite a lot lower now. Just as an example of where we're at. So I think there are some positive shoots in the squad and in the squad building. There is some question marks about open play chance creation because the 1 or 2 profiles we missed that Falco wanted. But here we are. It still ended up being a pretty good window, all in all, in our view, and we're pretty happy with the squad. As Hosty said, a lot of Premier League experience and a lot of it in the right areas, a lot of it in that spine, which is really important. A lot of experience of battling relegation in the spine as well. So hopefully that all means that we can stay competitive to January and then we can reassess. And we might do another one of these in January, or it'll be February, won't it, after the window's ended, if that's something you'd all fancy. But anyway, is that everything, guys? Do either of you have anything else to say? No.
I will just quickly add that I'm not editing the Arsenal. I'm not editing the Newcastle review right after this because it's way too late for this now.
Yep. No worries. Thanks for leaving that in.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a quick reminder, this will be on YouTube eventually at some point in the next few days. So please check that out and give us a like and subscribe and all that. And the website for our Patreon is what, Martin?
Patreon.com/ASAW Patreon.
Thank you. You are still awake. That's good to hear. That's all that we have time for tonight. We'll be back for a preview of the game against Fulham very soon, early next week at some point. And I might be appearing on another channel, so we'll link that if that happens as well. But yeah, for now, thank you very much to Tom.
Danke schön.
Thank you very much to Martin.
Thank you.
And thank you as well, dear listeners. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you soon. Bye.